Sometimes when we look at ourselves in the midst of all of these relationships and associations, we are trying to balance, like, what is it that we're bringing? What are we not bringing? How are we balancing our energy? And sometimes just how we think as human beings, we're often focusing on trying to get rid of the negative thoughts, or we're trying to like mediate that at the expense of really recognizing what we really bring to the situation. And that's really what I want to talk to you about today, is looking more holistically at who you are and what you're bringing by this practice of appreciation.
Welcome to the Leadership Vision Podcast, sharing our expertise in the discovery, practice, and implementation of a strengths-based approach to people, teams, and culture. For more resources about developing your strengths, the strengths of your team, or the strengths of your entire organization, click the link in the show notes or visit us on the web at leadershipvisionconsulting.com. Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan Freeberg, and today on the podcast, you're going to get to hear a very special episode where Brian Schubring and I, we talk about appreciation, and more specifically, Brian walks me through our process, our coaching process, I should say, one of 12 different coaching processes that we do with clients. This one happens to be focused on appreciation. And last week on the podcast, we kind of put out more of our philosophy about coaching, why we do coaching, how we do coaching, the different contexts in which we do coaching for people. And so if you want to listen to that, you can go back. There's a link in the show notes. But more specifically, or I should say in a nutshell, coaching is more about helping people go from potential to performance. And there's a lot more to it than that, but that's the nutshell. This is a very long episode here, and I just want to get to it right away. So if you do want to learn more about our coaching, kind of high level, you can, like I said, listen to that episode from last week. But this is just Brian and I talking. It's me bearing my soul a little bit. It's not too much, not too vulnerable. But if you have questions about this or anything related to it, a lot of different stuff comes up here about just different ways that we can appreciate ourselves and appreciate others, and how that can really kind of help to boost or bolster our self-awareness and knowledge around strengths and some other stuff. So if you have questions about any of this, please reach out to me, Nathan at leadershipvisionconsulting.com. I would love to chat with you more about it. All right, here is Brian and myself going through one of our coaching practices. Enjoy.
Nathan, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for doing this coaching. I have no idea what I'm about to do. All I have is this sheet that will be in the show notes. I'm so curious because I've heard you and Linda talk about our coaching process for almost 3 years now, and I haven't really known what you've been talking about. And so now I get to get coached. I'm not Nathan, the Leadership Vision podcast host right now. I'm Nathan, the Leadership Vision client. And so now I turn it over to you.
Thanks. Nathan, one thing I know from the years I've known you is I know that you have the ability to adapt to whatever's asked of you. And so in this process, I want you to maybe just get in a place where, you are as open and receptive as you normally are, but also mindful of, what distractions need to be put aside, for this process to happen. We've done things like this before, and you've been amazingly receptive to it. So I don't anticipate this being any different. I'm also curious to see, how it is that you walk along this next period of time as we're going through this. So as we get going today, I just want to remind you that we're getting together for this coaching session, and there's a couple of objectives that I want to lay out right away of, why are we even talking about this topic today of appreciation? And one is to just provide you, Nathan, with an opportunity for reflection. I know that there's a ton of things that you're involved in. There's a lot of busyness and duties that you're a part of. You have many different parts of your life that you pay attention to. And this is almost like a self-soothing, self-gratifying practice of just spending a moment of reflection on how is it that you bring appreciation to yourself. Because what I know is that with the second reason why is that I want to afford you the opportunity not only to reflect, but the opportunity to focus your reflection on this topic of appreciation. Because what we're going to find today is maybe areas of your life where you're paying attention to things that are truly life-giving. Maybe you're paying attention to things that are maybe more noisy, more distracting, not that clear. And hopefully through this process, some direction will be given that will help you understand what this practice of self-appreciation is really about. And so we're going to walk through several steps to get there. And Nathan, if you can envision like a funnel, the topic will be super big. And by the time we get to the end, we'll really narrow in on one specific question for the application for this entire topic. So do you have any questions about the process so far? We're just laying that out.
I don't know why, but I just got a little nervous.
Really?
Yeah, I think I have no reason to be nervous. I think that I love doing stuff like this. Like all the books that I've read this year are things that challenge me and make me think, and I love that. So,
well, let me ask you this: are you comfortable? Like, are you standing? Are you sitting? Like, are you comfortable where you are?
I'm standing. I'm comfortable. I have some beverages here. I have silenced all the notifications on my devices and closed all of the windows except for the window that I'm recording this in.
So you're as distraction-free as possible right now.
Yeah, all the kids are at school. The windows are closed.
This is good.
Yeah, it's good. I just I still have a little space in my brain that's reserved for making sure this is still being recorded. But otherwise,
that's fine.
I'm all yours, Brian. I am here.
Well, a couple things that as we go, I'll be taking notes. Part of my process is if I'm writing and processing or drawing things, it helps me focus on what's being said. And so I'll be taking notes on either my iPad or writing things on some paper. So you'll see me pause for that.
I have a pen. Do I need to write anything?
Actually, you don't. You may find that you want to write something down, which, there's no problem with that. Many people do. Or I may say something as we go to jot this down. But as far as I'm concerned, you have the notes just as a visual guide. You don't even have to pay attention to that.
Cool.
All right, so what I want to do just from the very beginning to kind of like just calm us or just like kind of get us into this space, I just want you to kind of like maybe just think very openly on, what are the 2 or 3 landscapes in your world that are getting your attention right now? It could be personal, your kid's education, one of your children, something you do recreationally, like just if you can imagine like 3 different hillsides, what are these 3 different hillsides in your life that you're paying attention to right now?
So 3. So 1 is leadership vision, my job. And maybe for the purpose of this, I'll try to refer to it a little bit more generically. So my job right now is really heating up. We're at a place where coming out of COVID, we're kind of turning a corner, so to speak, in terms of some projects and the ability to do certain things. And so a lot that was put on hold, perhaps for the past couple of years, is now like becoming a reality. We've sort of removed some barriers to certain things. And so that's grabbing a lot of my attention just because of there's so many possibilities there. There's so many options. There's so many opportunities. And it's like just trying to grasp and grapple with like, well, what's the most important one, or what's the one I do next? It's like, you think about building a house. It's like, well, it's pretty clear. You dig a hole first, you pour the foundation, there's like easy steps, but with this, there's not that. It's like, well, we could put in windows, or we could put in the sewer pipe. We could hang art on the walls. Like there's just so many different whatever. So that's really focused. The other one is my family. Sort of a same way, like so much has been put on hold for the last 2 years. All 4 of my children are now in school. My wife, who has a big fancy executive level job, is doing more traveling. And so it's not only holding down the fort at home, because my aforementioned job provides me a lot of flexibility to do that, but it's also not just holding it down. It's okay, the girls are learning to read. How do we spend time doing that? My son is doing higher math now. How do we do that? My youngest daughter is doing this, or going to different activities, swim lessons and gymnastics and sports practices. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of managing all of that while also, ensuring we're eating healthy and we're getting out to exercise and we're actually spending time together as a family, not just doing tasks. And so, I could have very easily said home life and work life. Those are my 2 main focus areas.
Let's go one more though.
And I'm kind of lumping my wife into the family one right now, but that obviously relationship is important, figuring that out. But I guess the third one is sort of my own mental health, if we want to call it that, well-being. Oh. I'm officially a middle-aged dad, and wanting to make sure that I'm staying healthy, both physically healthy, mentally healthy, and also able to, spend time with my friends and, have play dates, if you will, and do stuff that's fun for me. I started playing the piano again during COVID. And so like even just spending time doing those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think your question is like, what's getting my attention right now? It's work life, home life, and then I guess intrapersonal life, or just spending time, not just reacting to all those other things, but also like, I really want to read this book. I really want to watch an episode of the new Lord of the Rings show, or, whatever. I really want to go on a longer than, 30-minute run in the morning. So
with all
does that
those,
make sense? Did I answer?
With each of those three, which one are you noticing more? Like when it comes to just like maybe if you think about how much time you're spending just in, what I would say like noticing, which of those three areas are you noticing the most?
That's hard to answer because I feel like it depends on the time of the day. Like I kind of have my day chunked out into, the first hour to 2 hours of the day is me. And then the next hour is, kids and family, and then a big chunk for work, and then kids again, and then family. And then, but I think right now it would definitely be work because I'm doing work perhaps. And maybe what I'm even just thinking about is that good enough?
That's fine, because the next thing I want to ask you is, so now you've narrowed your focus down. So my next question is this: who are you noticing the most? And that could be in the category that you were just referring to, or if you were to zoom out again and look over the landscape, who is it that's standing out? Who are you noticing the most and why?
Probably my boss. I'm looking at him. It's interesting. I don't know if I want to keep playing this game, but he said the other day, he's like, well, it's going to be interesting to get to, like, because we're working together regularly so much. And so like figuring that out is going to be different. And I was kind of thinking about that as well. And so noticing, and because we're working so much through a screen like this, it is like we have very different styles, we have very different strengths, we have very different ways of approaching things and thinking about things. And I think there's a lot of that that's really good, but figuring out, it's really doing with this person, my boss, whoever that person is, I'm sure you don't know him, it's figuring out like how do we, in some ways, implement all of the stuff that we're doing like with each other in this area, but then also kind of extending that is there's another guy that works on our team that works very close. He and I work very closely together, and like we get along really well just as friends and buddies, but also then it's like figuring out how do we work together and how do we like brainstorm with action.
Yep.
And so those are probably the two people I'm noticing the most, because, one person, it's like, here's all the things that we could do. And then the other person is like, but what are we going to actually do and how are we going to do it? And so I'm kind of in the middle of bridging those gaps, and it's, me noticing the two of them, and in some ways bringing those two ideas together, to go back to that building metaphor, it's like the architect and the builder, and I'm the project manager of like, well, the architect wants all this, but the builder's saying this is what's actually possible. And so how do we bring those together?
I like that. And
so I don't know if this is self-centered, but I'm also noticing myself in that picture of, my role and my skills, and also a little bit of some of that just sort of well-being, mental health stuff too, is like, how do I become the best at what I'm doing so that I'm informing both of these people well? How am I reading blogs and listening to podcasts and whatever it is so that I'm like informing decisions. So
in the midst of all that, Nathan, last question as part of our introduction here.
Oh, this is just the introduction?
Yep. How are you feeling right now?
How am I feeling right now? Yeah.
Yep. And that can be, like as you think about, that part of who you are, considering what are the thoughts that are getting your attention, what are the tasks and duties that are getting your attention, the people that are asking for your attention, how are you feeling in the midst of all this? You just named all these different landscapes, different things, and people are getting your attention. How are you feeling? Like, how are you feeling today?
I think on one hand, I'm feeling incredibly grateful, and I have this tremendous opportunity to do this work, to be this parent, to be this husband, to be this whatever. Like I feel so lucky. There's so much in life is luck, right? Like if our paths hadn't crossed when they did, we wouldn't be here. There's so much that's lucky, and so it's recognizing the levels, like the level of hard work and like what I put into things, but also realizing just how lucky am I. And so I think I'm feeling today, right now, as you said, just very grateful for that. And, but also there's an element, so now this hand, of like someone the other day for a thing I was working on with the school was like, I love working with you because you're such an optimist. You just always assume like things will get done, like things will happen. You don't let like potential roadblocks like derail us. And I was like, that is amazing. Like, I feel so grateful that this person thinks of me that way, because I don't think of myself that way.
Oh, really?
I tend to think of, with all that like opportunity of like, oh man, am I going to get it right? Am I going to make mistakes that we can't figure out? Are we going to get so far down a road that we waste all this time? And so there's an element that I'm also feeling a little bit anxious along with all that. And I think that's the cognitive dissonance of holding this in my head, of like thinking that there's so much opportunity and so much potential and so much to do. It's kind of like when you have the whole day free and you're like, wow, I'm going to do all this stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like 4:00 in the afternoon. It's like, oh my goodness, I just wasted this whole day because I kept thinking, I've got all this time. And so I'm feeling that tension, I think, a little bit right now of, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really does, because when you talk about holding the tension and how you're feeling like you're standing in the middle, that is something that I really want to lean into today, because a lot of, what you just named, you're naming both the positive and the negative. Like, you're naming both sides of this. And you had that perspective of, I'm in the middle of these things. Even when you said, the architect and the builder, like you're like the project manager in the middle of all that, even that was this dichotomous statement of, I'm standing in the middle. And sometimes when we look at ourselves in the midst of all of these relationships and associations, we are trying to balance, like, what is it that we're bringing? What are we not bringing? How are we balancing our energy? And sometimes just how we think as human beings, we're often focusing on trying to get rid of the negative thoughts, or we're trying to like mediate that at the expense of really recognizing what we really bring to the situation. And that's really what I want to talk to you about today, is looking more holistically at who you are and what you're bringing by this practice of appreciation. Because you mentioned how you're being perceived as positive, but then you went right to speaking about how you're holding things in this state of cognitive dissonance. And there is that recognition that you're kind of standing in the middle. And so today, with appreciation can only happen when we are recognizing that there could be that tension, and we're choosing then to focus on what are the attributes, the qualities and characteristics that we do bring, regardless of the landscape or the context that's in front of us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What do you think of when I say that?
What I first thought of, sometimes we can get so lost in the weeds that I can forget about like things I've done in the past, or not that like, oh, things are just going to always work out, but like when kind of the idea of like that I was saying about like messing things up or getting so far down, they're like, oh man, we took the wrong turn or something. I don't know that I have examples of that in my life, of where I've, going back to this metaphor, built a house and realized, oh my goodness, it's the wrong house. It's crooked. It's built on, an active volcano or something. And so I think, I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but like a reminder of that tension and stress of I am good at adapting and adjusting, and, getting a couple degrees off course, I can get back on course.
You're fine with that.
So,
yeah.
So I don't know that I need to worry about that maybe as much as or maybe that whole worrying about it is what keeps me on course. And so if I stop worrying about it, I'm not going to.
Well, let's lean into that, because part of what I want to do is I want to read the paragraph that's on the outline that I gave you. And this paragraph is there to provide it like an intellectual framework, within which to think about this topic of appreciation. So let's just step into that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the first paragraph, then I'm going to stop, and I'm going to ask you to reflect just on that first paragraph. And so from that paragraph, is there something that stands out in one of the sentences? Does it pique your curiosity about something? So I'm not even going to read both paragraphs. I'm just going to read the one. So you follow along, you listen, then I'll ask for what you're thinking. All right. Sentence number one. Topic today is appreciation. And one of the catchphrases we use today is practicing a positive bias toward yourself and others. And so here's the first paragraph. When we appreciate and honor ourselves, we are recognizing the people and causes who have helped nurture and support us along the way. Appreciating ourselves provides us with resiliency and confidence. As I'm watching you look at that, what stands out from that paragraph? What catches your attention or catches your curiosity?
I think that idea of like those who have helped us along the way and supported us, and I think that could be anyone from family to mentors to even bad bosses. Not that they've been nurturing and supportive necessarily, but just we've learned something from them. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that I'm always good at that. I'm kind of stuck on this last sentence. Appreciating ourselves provides us with resiliency and confidence. Maybe going back to what I was saying earlier about remembering when things from before that I'm worried about, I was like, well, this happened and it, worked out well, or it didn't, and I learned this and adjusted, whatever. I don't know. I guess I'm stuck on both of those sentences, or seeing the connection here between them.
Is that to appreciate ourselves, we can give ourselves the chance to press pause and reflect on the journey that has brought us here. And the journey that has brought us here isn't just experiences or like choices and decisions that we've made. It's been these outlying or these outer resources that can be perceived, like you're saying, about family, opportunities, and bosses that have also helped shape us and gotten us to where we are today. And also this process is to appreciate how we have overcome some of the challenges, overcome some of the obstacles, taken advantage of some of the opportunities that are given to us, and seeing how we've been resilient through the process. And remembering that can give us a sense of courage what we're facing today, a sense of greater confidence that we've been through before, that there could be some more wisdom to be learned from this time of reflection. Is that helpful?
Yeah, and I also like this nurture and support us. I think the other thing, or what just clicked with me was, because all these different random people are popping into my mind that I don't know that I've ever thought about their role in nurturing and supporting me.
We're going to get to that, actually.
They may have. Oh, well, I'm way ahead of you then. So I don't know. I think that might be good because, again, going back to this idea that there's a lot of luck in my life and a lot of, the fact that I'm a white male is a lucky thing that I had nothing to do with. The fact that we live where we live and like my parents were whatever, maybe recognizing and those people in the past is, that's just very interesting, I think.
Okay, second paragraph. I'll read it to you and I'll ask you to reflect on that, okay? Second paragraph says this: most people find it easy to express gratitude and show appreciation to others. But what about toward ourselves? Our perspective of our gifts and strengths is often distorted, and that's also known as a negativity bias. Being human is accepting the good and the bad. Self-appreciation is not selfish. It is a way to see ourselves more clearly as a whole person.
So on the topic of self-appreciation, I kind of have two levels. I'm either the best and the greatest, and no one has ever done this better than me, or I am the worst. Just a piece of what, and just like awful, and how could you do that? And something in the middle is probably healthier. So this sentence here of our perspective of our gifts and strengths is often distorted. That's totally true. Well, just speak for myself. I think, again, what I was saying is that I think that I've either got this sense of, wow, these people would be dead in the water without me, or I'm dead weight. What am I doing here? Like it's that, just that healthy appreciation Or I was wondering, like, so where is the healthy line? Where is saying like, wow, I did really good at this.
Ooh, I like that.
I was a really helpful contributing member to this team, to this family, to whatever. I'm just rereading this. Self-appreciation is not selfish. It's a way to see ourselves more clearly as a whole person. And so a lot of times, like I just did this big thing at the kids' school, and it was like, oh, it was amazing. It was this, it was that, is the other thing. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, it was awesome. No one's ever done something like this. But it wasn't as awesome as it could have been. It wasn't da-da-da-da. I don't remember what you asked me. What do I think of when I hear this or look at this? I'm like, where's the middle ground? Am I the worst at self-appreciation ever? Am I like terrible at this? What does healthy look like when it comes to self-appreciation? Is there because I also think of like, how does humility fit into this and not thinking too highly of oneself? So I guess I have a lot of thoughts on this one, Brian.
Yep. And so for this practice today, what I want to do is I want to begin to lean into this sense of self-appreciation as it helps provide a sense of confidence and assurance for what you are to do, like in the here and now, as well as provide you with a healthy sense of pride. And so what I want to do is lean in on that. And I want to ask you a simple question as a way to reflect into this like healthy sense of pride. And the question is this: what 3 to 5 qualities do you appreciate about yourself? So like think about the qualities and then maybe an example that supports that. 3 to 5 qualities that you appreciate about yourself.
You want me to answer that now?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Real time. I'm creative. I come up with a lot of ideas pretty easily. I think I'm pretty funny. Like I bring kind of a positive camp counselor vibe to everything I do. For lack of a better
I like that, yeah.
term. And qualities. I'm joking because I just had a conversation with my wife recently about how this wasn't the best quality, but I like it. I can think ahead and plan ahead and kind of think through, like always be prepared, like a Boy Scout kind of a thing. And so for going on a trip or going out for the day, or even, this is how much we need to save every month for our quarterly tax payments. Like I feel like I'm pretty good at kind of planning and organizing and keeping things straight.
Okay, so what I want you to do now is I want you to take 2 of those qualities, blend them together, and give me an example of how you've seen that actually like bring life to the people that were around you. So creative, fun, funny, and living like a Boy Scout, thinking and planning ahead.
Yeah. Well, this thing I did at the kids' school, I helped plan this big event. It was a fundraiser. The school leadership really wanted it to be about bringing the community together and bringing people after 2 years of not being able to meet together. And so I, along with this other committee, we planned this event that was very fun. It was a fun event, and I was the MC. And so I did a bunch of fun MC things that, again, I got a lot of feedback. A lot of people talked about like how fun it was. I played a song on the piano in front of 400 people that was just goofy and silly. And it kind of came out of just dreaming up, like, what could this event be? What has it been in the past? How do we make it different? How do we think through?
It's a story of all of those examples.
Well, it kind of is, because I was about to say, like, even with the piano thing, I met with my son's piano teacher a couple times just to like help me with a few things, and thought through like how we're going to do donations, like just all of these different pieces of it. And it was a blast. It was fun. It was, I believe it was well received. I haven't sent out a survey. Yeah,
so my question, Nathan, is how did that experience make you feel proud?
Well, it made me feel proud because the program piece of it was very different from what had happened in the past. And I just heard from a lot of people that they just had fun. Like I keep saying that over, but it was just a fun event. And some of that, I feel like I'm fun, but I also feel like I know how to create environments that are fun. And so it's not necessarily that I'm the one creating everyone's fun on a one-on-one basis. It's more of, like, if I just take the kids to a trampoline park, it's like instant fun for 2 hours, right? I'm not the one doing the jumping. I'm not the one putting up the stuff. And so this event, I feel like it made me feel so proud because, again, I wasn't doing this by myself. I want to make sure, not that any of those people are going to be listening to this, but so at the end of the night, I just felt like, wow, I feel so proud that I had a major role in crafting this experience for these 400 people where, as far as I know, everyone had fun. Everyone went home, hearing all kinds of feedback. Like, that was so much fun. Thank you, for your role in that. And it just was like, that just makes me feel great. Like, that's, pat on the back, high five.
Yeah, I like that.
So
to summarize what you said, my question was, how did this event make you feel proud? What are you proud of? Like, any way to interpret that sense of, what you brought you a sense of pride. You said the event itself was very different than any of the events in the past. You created an environment where people were able to experience and enjoy themselves and be entertained, accomplish the goal. The third thing you said was that you did it, and it wasn't by yourself. It wasn't an event that you created on your own. You needed help from others. And the last thing was but you did play the major role in the whole shaping of the experience.
Sure.
So those are all high five, slap on the back worthy. Hug your teammate as you're leaving the field. It's a great example. I've heard that you mentioned this example in the past, so I know that there's a great sense of pride to that. I know that, there's also this sense of, maybe for today's purposes, like a purpose of like pausing to appreciate that you are able to do all of these complexities, like on a macro scale, as well as think of many of the details to actually make it happen. So my next question for you, Nathan, is, as you think of this experience that was kind of like this pinnacle event, took a lot of work and time to get there, I want to ask you this, like, as you kind of zoom back and look at the event as a whole, first, second, you consider the various characteristics and qualities that you named that you appreciate about yourself that you brought to this. What are some of the people or causes or opportunities in your life, maybe the last 5-10 years, that have afforded you the opportunity to really hone these skills to be able to make this event such a great event like it was?
You said only the last 5 or 10 years?
Or you can go wherever you want to with that. Whatever time frame you want to put is fine. But the people or causes is really the question. Or people, the causes or the opportunities that have helped get you to where you are today.
Well, I can't help but think of my dad. And more specifically, he was a minister for a long time. And I would always get up in front, not always, but often, get up and read in church, or we had Christmas plays, and then I was in 4-H, which is this organization around the same time, and a lot of opportunities to be in front of people, and so I can't, as different as my life is today, I can't not credit that and be appreciative of all of those early experiences. Because yesterday, so I go to the first swim practice of the year, and they have this little parent meeting, and they're like, this is all volunteers, we need parents to help with this. And the guy leading the meeting, he pulled me aside, he's like, hey, can you be our announcer MC for the swim meets? You're clearly comfortable in front of a microphone, because he saw me at the thing. And
that's hysterical.
And so like that, because people are terrified to speak in front of people, right? It's like one of the greatest fears. I am not at all. I love it. And so I think about that one example. I was like, oh yeah, like that. I've had so much experience. I have to thank my dad, my parents, the church, the school. Like I had so many opportunities to do that.
So just if I'm summarizing, number one was your father, the church, and those opportunities. Second one was 4-H. And then I'm kind of summarizing like all the opportunities that you're able to be in front of people or architect something. That can be like an accumulative kind of catch-all topic. Is that somewhat?
Yeah. I mean, I think if those first couple things started it, then, I mean, I could start listing them all for you.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's
I know
helpful.
you could. But I want to keep it narrow, because the next question I think is really important in this process. And that is, if you could thank your father, if you could thank people in the 4-H, or thank someone along the way for helping you get to where you are today, that the person that contributed to the shaping and the growing of these qualities and characteristics that you're appreciating today, who is that person? What would you say? How would you express your gratitude to them?
So thank you to my dad for those opportunities, and for my mom, so my parents, I guess, because she was big in 4-H, which was like there were speech things, contests. And I also know I have a few memories of not wanting to do it, of being afraid, and them making me do it.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm the one asking for the microphone, or asking, or always volunteering to MC, or being told, well, you'll of course be the MC for this, or why don't you go up there and say some stuff.
Okay.
So does that answer your question?
Yep, it does. How about in the last 5 years? Like in the last 5 years, who is a person that you would point to and say, without that individual, I'm not sure if I would have continued to be this creative and fun, like this kind of architect that you are talking about today.
Oh, I see where this is going, Brian. I see what you're looking for here. Okay. So my boss and his wife have been this whole thing has been one big workup. No, kidding aside, I feel like my job, I'll keep it neutral, has been this place where the last 5 years I have constantly been pushed and pressed. Part of it is like almost a challenge of you and Linda being like, well, I don't know how to do this. How can we do this? We can't do this. And me like, well, I'll show you how we can do this. And so what's interesting about me too, Brian, I don't know if you knew this, is that I love being up in front of people. I love casting a vision, creating an environment of fun, but I also get excited about like this course that we're working on, and figuring out a different flow, and how I could get all the videos in here that people could watch, and how that could create this fun environment for learning. And so it's also like all those appreciative things, or that, what do we call that from before, but that environment that I can create. It doesn't just have to be up on a stage. And so I think one of the things that Leadership Vision the last 5 years is there's, especially the last 2 years with COVID, is there's this constant, literally constant, sometimes it changes every week, of, well, how do we do it this way? How do we get the videos on the website? How do we create a podcast that is going to get our voice out and our vision out? And so I think definitely you and Linda have done that in so many different ways. Do you want me to name more people? Is this like
No, I don't,
an Oscars acceptance speech?
No, but what I want to do is I want to now turn the corner to make this more present tense, because part of this coaching practice is not only like this piece of reflecting on the qualities and characteristics that we appreciate about ourselves, the practice of gratitude and recognizing the people, the causes and opportunities that have got us there, but also to look around us now and to appreciate the people that are here that we feel are the ones with whom we feel the most appreciated. Because now it's like recognizing that there are maybe environments, opportunities, or types of people where we really feel appreciated, which then gives us the chance to think, act, create, and feel with more confidence, because we feel totally at home, totally at peace, completely integrated into those relationships, whether it's with people or place, where it's like, it almost like gives us this boost of confidence to be even more expressive in these areas that we've just said we appreciate. Does that make sense? So the question is, where and with whom do you feel the most appreciated? Where like people see you for who you are, and you feel like there's just this wind of empowerment.
Yeah. I mean, definitely with you guys, without a doubt. But it has to be with my wife. I mean, especially the last couple of years of COVID, like the amount of time we've spent with one another, or didn't early on, as she was crazy busy. I think it's got to be her. I mean, we've been together almost 20 years now. We've known each other longer than that. And the ups and the downs and the triumphs and the not good stuff. Like there's a sense of, if she tells me something is not good or not my best, like it hurts, but I know she's right. And also like, and I think spouses always want to boost each other's self-esteem, but also like she's not someone that will just tell me something is great if it was awful. And so I've learned to really trust that voice and trust that perspective. She's also wicked smarter than I am. And so there's like an element of like her opinion and her perspective is so much more valued than mine. Or I value it sometimes more than mine because I just know it's coming from a crazy amount of just diversity of thought and experience and other stuff too.
One observation on what you just said, the people, the opportunities that you mentioned were all opportunities that perhaps build on some of the values that you carry as an individual. And some of the things that I wrote down were people who, like, you feel the most appreciated among people that, where you feel known, people that you trust, people that you would consider smart and challenging.
Yeah.
Does that resonate?
Yeah. That's right on.
So my last question is this, before we zoom back and ask one final question. My last question is,
The penultimate question.
if you think about your day today, and as you're beginning to reflect on, what it meant to go through this practice of, self-appreciation, recognizing what you bring, who helped get you here, I want to end with this is, you're also living a story of appreciation for other people. Just in the same way that your father, your mother, and other individuals you named had a shaping influence on you understanding really what you bring to a variety of situations, what you're truly gifted at, and how to really honor your uniqueness. You're also playing that same shaping role, that role of the recognizer of gifts, talents, and strengths, the role of providing encouragement. Who are some of the people in your life today that you would be able to say, you know what? I could express appreciation towards them in whatever way it is, but as a way of recognizing your shaping role on making someone's life meaningful and significant. Who would that person be, or who would those people be?
I don't know why, but the first person that comes to mind is my kid's, the principal at their school.
That's really why is that?
Like all educators, like he's just been, especially like principals and people in like positions of making big school decisions, he's just been through the ringer the last couple of years. And as I have gotten to know him, as I've been involved in stuff in the school, he cares so much about that place. Like he's been there for 30 years or something crazy like that.
Wow.
As a teacher and whatever. But also as hearing kind of the flip side of like what the parents are complaining about, I'm like, man, that guy has a tough job. He's doing the best he can. I think he's making more right decisions than wrong ones. And he could just probably use some more appreciation and gratitude for his role, the role that he plays in speaking to the teachers, and speaking to the children, like all that stuff. So that's the first person that came to mind.
All right, let's do this. In the midst of all this, I don't want us to forget that we are among the crowd of individuals that are shaping other people and their understanding of what is good, right, and beautiful about themselves, as well as providing a role of sharpening people when that's necessary too.
Yeah.
So as you kind of like, figuratively lean back over the last, 45 minutes we've been talking, I want to ask you one question before a final application. So the last question is this. Of all that we've talked about, maybe something that we didn't talk about that's now like kind of rattling around in your head or kind of getting your attention now, what stands out? What is like something that stands out from this conversation? It could be something you read, something you said, something you're thinking about now, but what stands out?
Well, I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but I'm coming back to that second paragraph that we read about what is the right amount of self-appreciation.
Ooh.
I say that as someone who is very aware, maybe too aware, of not wanting to be too overly or underly critical of oneself. I think sometimes people, they're so hard on themselves, which I am, that you do have to kind of build up that level of self-esteem. Where is that sweet spot of appreciation? And so that's the first thing. Because I was talking to a friend about this the other day. I was like, well, we were specifically talking about running. He's like, well, how do you stay hungry? Because I had said, like, no matter what goal I have, if I hit it, I was like, oh, but I could have gone a little faster. And he's like, well, isn't that good? Because that keeps you hungry, that keeps you pushing, that keeps you trying. And so the other part, I was just kind of standing out or still wondering, or whatever question you asked, is how does this appreciation, self-appreciation, like what role does this play in with that idea of pushing ourselves to get stronger, to get better, to get whatever, while also recognizing and appreciating what we have? Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's just gratitude. Is this even answering your question, or is this just a tangent?
Yeah, it is, more than you think.
Oh, okay. Then I'll keep going. I'm looking at the sheet, and it's like, what 3 to 5 qualities do you appreciate about yourself? And I'm like, well, I could list 10 if you want me to. But I'm like, ooh, but I shouldn't. I shouldn't list any. Like I should, or not that I shouldn't list any, but
Well, with that, Nathan,
is
there
humility
something
one of
that-
those qualities?
Maybe. Is, like, as you're thinking about this, like, kind of as we're wrapping up, as you're thinking about it, are you also becoming more aware of maybe something you need to leave behind as a result of this conversation, like a way of thinking, an attitude toward yourself, a specific phrase or voice that you keep hearing?
Yeah, I think I need to leave the idea behind that I'm the only one that thinks this way, or that this isn't something that a lot of people struggle with. And not that justifies it or whatever, but just this idea of beating myself up for appreciating myself too much is not helpful.
That's really good.
Nor is beating myself up or whatever the opposite of that is. So it's almost like, how do I just kind of be? How do I just enjoy what is? I don't know if that's contentment. I've been thinking and reading and practicing mindfulness a lot in the last, it's October, almost a year. And that idea of just kind of sitting without any expectation of something to happen is just very difficult for me.
Correct, because part of the practice of self-appreciation is to appreciate not only that holistic, whole person way of seeing yourself, but also appreciating of the moment where you can be present now without the need to strive into tomorrow.
Right.
Or
Right.
to critically reflect too much on the past. We visited those as a way of being able to say, or to ask, how can we be anchored now in an appreciation of the opportunity that we have right now?
Yeah.
And that goes right along with your summary of, how can I be more present? And you're not the only one that wrestles with this. How can we have a healthy sense of self-appreciation for really the unique, gifted people that we really are, without getting stuck in or trapped in limiting beliefs, stereotypes, or self-criticism? There is another way. There are so many ways that we can view ourselves. Why not view ourselves in a self-appreciative way, where we're honoring the person that we really are and recognizing, where we've received help along the way.
Yeah. That's good. So what do we, like,
You've been listening to the Leadership Vision.
what's next with this? Like, you give me action steps? Do you give me go do these 3 things, or fill out more?
That's where I think
these little bubbles, or
part of the action of this is creating a sense of desire for people to have this moment to pause and not to worry about anything else that's going on around them, and to give themselves a chance to look in the reflective mirror and ask themselves some questions about getting to know themselves better.
yeah.
Now, the next time I would meet with someone, I would go through some of the things that we summarized here as a way to introduce them into the process that we're going to go through in that day. So we would revisit it. But there isn't a specific set of action steps that are professional practices to do, not in this process. This is more, like what you were saying, more of an opportunity for self-help and self-discovery as a way of bringing some calm, bringing some peace, maybe a sense of control to someone's day when they're going through, just as you can imagine, what an 8, 10, or 12-hour day might look like for some of the people that we're working with.
Yeah. 2 takeaways for me is, maybe more, but that idea of who would you want to appreciate, or who would you want to thank, or I forget what you asked me.
Express appreciation.
Yeah. That could just be a good practice for me, for everybody, of how do you, who is someone that you see doing something that you want to appreciate for. And it could be the barista at your coffee shop, or, whatever.
Because we don't know. And see, with the leaders that I'm working with, I have a greater understanding of their context. So I know who they're working with. I also know how their voice can truly have that self-affirming influence on a person that they actually need.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because sometimes a thank you from one person doesn't mean as much as a thank you from someone else. But I'm asking for something more than a thank you. I'm asking for someone to truly express appreciation. I appreciate you because, I appreciate you for, I appreciate you when. Then you have that fill in the blank, because then you have that behavioral or emotional validation that's being received by a person. And we really, really need that, because we know that we're all human beings and we need a sense of belonging, meaning, and significance.
Yeah.
And it's just so important to realize how a statement of appreciation towards someone can tick off all three of those.
Well, thank you, Brian.
Well, thank you, Freeberg.
You've given me a lot to think about here. And thank you for listening to the Leadership Vision podcast, sharing our expertise in the discovery, practice, and implementation of a strengths-based approach to people, teams, and culture. For more resources about developing your strengths, the strengths of your team, or the strengths of your entire organization, click that link in the show notes or visit us on the web at leadershipvisionconsulting.com. And if you have questions about anything you heard in this episode about coaching, about how to learn more about self-appreciation and exploring your strengths, you can reach out to me. You can email me directly, nathan@leadershipvisionconsulting.com. I would love to talk to you more about this. We don't really do coaching like in a one-off type setting. As Brian mentioned, we do it more in the setting of like with a team or in the context. We just feel that it's just more effective. But if you have questions about this or even working with us, we would love to chat with you more about it. So like I said, reach out to me, nathan@leadershipvisionconsulting.com. I would love to chat with you more about it. On behalf of our entire team, thanks for listening.